The AJC recently released additional footage on the Ahmaud Arbery murder case. While this is breaking news to the public, it's old news to the GBI. The key takeaway here is that the GBI used this footage in its investigation to establish probable cause to charge the McMichaels with felony murder. We want to take this opportunity to answer the questions we received from our initial interview with criminal defense attorney Manny Arora. In this next interview, we're going to address why the McMichaels might receive a bond despite the egregious nature of the charges, what it means that Georgia does not have any hate crime laws on the books, and how this additional footage might impact the case. We've seen too many times over how a tactic like this is used to improperly characterize innocent black men. So tune in, send us your questions, and circle back so you can get accurate legal updates to help us bring justice to the Arbery family.
In our state, we do have what's called a citizen's arrest, but it's rarely, if ever, used. Generally speaking, you have to observe a felony. Typically, it's got to be in your presence, and then you have to do what you think is reasonable to detain that person. In this situation, the new tape, assuming everything's accurate, the victim in this case goes into the house. Going into the house isn't a crime. At worst, it could be a criminal trespass. The reason I say that is he's not stealing anything, not taking anything. It's just somebody that goes into a construction site and is just taking a look around. People in our neighborhood do it all the time when houses are being built, things of that nature. So whether it's a crime or not is an issue, and I don't see a way where this could be a felony. Therefore, when the individual stopped him with shotguns blazing, that would be well in excess of trying to make any type of a citizen's arrest, and so that defense wouldn't apply. Now that we saw that the individual actually went into the house, the McMichaels' explanation has some credibility. The problem is we don't know if they saw the individual entering the house or not. So we don't know where they're getting this information. If it's secondhand information where a friend calls them and says it, then the citizen's arrest issue doesn't work. Regardless, there isn't really a crime committed, or at worst there might be a misdemeanor. So what they did in confronting this young man with shotguns isn't going to fly under the law, so the probable cause for arrest is valid. There is a citizen's arrest for a misdemeanor. In our history of Georgia, it's rarely, if ever, been used. Typically, citizen's arrest statutes there in case I'm at a Walmart shoplifting or things of that nature, not just some guy walking down the street. But with or without the statute, a felony does not appear to have been committed, and the actions the McMichael family took in trying to stop this young man were way beyond anything reasonable, and therefore there won't be any self-defense or any type of citizen's arrest defense available in this situation based on what we know. When they were arrested, generally within 24 to 48 hours, you get a first appearance hearing. That hearing is held by a magistrate judge that doesn't have the authority to give bail. So when the news reports that their bail was denied, that's a misnomer. Everybody's bail would be denied on a murder charge at that point. A bail hearing has been set down in the near future, and a superior court judge will have to hear it and decide if they should get bail or not.
So the reports that we've already heard about their bail being denied was just their first hearing?
That was their first appearance, and it has to be denied at that point because that judge doesn't have the authority. So technically, yes, their bail was denied, but they could have never gotten bail. The most important standard when a judge decides whether you get bail or not is whether you're going to flee the jurisdiction or not, or perhaps commit more crimes. They're not really supposed to look at the strength and the weaknesses of the case. I don't know if that can be avoided in this situation and the politics of it all. But if you look at it from a purely analytical point of view, based on the McMichaels' history from the little that we know, their lack of criminal record, their ties to the community, technically they should be entitled to bail, whatever that number might be onto the bail. The majority of the world, seeing what they've seen in the video, may say no way in the world should they get bail, but if you look at it purely legally, they meet the criteria for getting bail. Right. You can't look at the actual facts of the crime. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to just look at the elements of if you qualify for bail, and that's, are you a danger to the community? Are you going to run away? Things of that nature. And from what we know about their background, technically they would qualify. In reality, whether a judge does it or not is a different story. But the egregious nature and the horrific nature and the offensive nature of it all, we have to try to be able to put that aside and judge this purely on the legal issues. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. We used to have a hate crime law in Georgia until 2004. The legislature enacted one, but it was so vague that our Supreme Court had to reverse it and, nullify that statute. In this situation, whether you're looking at murder or felony murder, the only punishment is either life with parole or life without parole. There's nothing else. So whether you're charged with a hate crime, whether this is a hate crime, it really wouldn't matter except from a moral point of view, because the punishment doesn't increase that much more. You'd add a few more years to a life sentence.